Well, here we are again. This is a part two for making a dubstep growl and machine gun bass. Um, Here, I think we have, yes, death gun. This is how it sounds. Wait a minute. I got a bit fast. So yeah, pretty much this is a kind of like a pluck wave, uh, uh, plucky nature of the sound. Yeah, that's kind of like what essentially kind of like a bullet is. It's just it's not doesn't really have that much sustain. Um, I usually dictate the decay with filter envelope as opposed to the volume envelope. And for all of you guys that are new to Massive, envelope 4 is defaulted to be the volume envelope of your sound. It's assigned to the amp uh, section here. So if we were to take out this level and it cuts the volume, if you leave it up, you're allowed to play your sound completely while the key is pressed on your MIDI controller or your keyboard if you're using your keyboard. So I'm going to now start imitating this sound. I'm going to try and make it from scratch. So bear with me. Hopefully you get to uh, learn how to make machine gun bass at a new instance of Massive. And here we go. So all these sounds I'm making are on F. Uh, and usually sound better like when you actually make a sound from scratch. um, if you're on a certain key, you tend to be biased and try to make that sound best at that key. So usually these sounds to create to design them and make them like really perfect and good. They take time. You know, even though I've done this 1,000 times, I still struggle sometimes to get the best sound out of a patch that I'm creating, especially when I'm trying to imitate a sound that I've heard or whatnot. Um, so that's why it's best that you understand what you're doing and not just aimlessly move uh, buttons around and knobs, because at the end of the day you're gonna probably just get tired of just not, you're gonna get frustrated. You really want to know what you're doing. So here we got Chrome. Step one again, choose your oscillator, know which one sounds best for what you want, or at least get it to sound as good as you want. These parameters, the bend, they really help uh, for basses. Like, they tend to sound way better. Spectrum is usually best for chords, I believe, and leads. You can use basses on Spectrum. Sometimes they sound better on Spectrum, but for the most part, when you're trying to do a lot of growling effects or getting some good saturated sounds out of the wavetable, the bend parameter really helps with that. There's also bend plus, minus. Foreman's good for growls too, and getting some higher register sounds in there that are pretty clean. And but yeah, at least for this patch, we're gonna use the bend plus, minus. Um, yeah, okay. tube set. So after that, step 2 would be make sure your voices are at add the voices and add add this. Okay, we got it. All right, so step 3, the tube saturation. Add some of that. Yeah, we got some good saturation on there. 4, add the dimension expander. Gets fuller, gets more in your facer. Remember that when we added the 4 voices along with the phase restart, we gotta gain down a bit. If you're new to mixing and whatnot, one really big mistake was that I didn't watch my gain staging, and I wouldn't care if things would clip. It's really important that if you do clip and you like the way something sounds when it's clipping, that when it gets to your master, you're not just clipping the crap out of your master. It's really good to gain stage and make sure that stuff is at least at unity, and if it's clipping, not to clip more than 3 dBs. I feel like the distortion that you get from that really doesn't add anything beneficial. I mean, it may. I personally don't think so. I feel like the distortion that you get out of plugins or whether it be the massive or a third-party plugin, that distortion itself should suffice. And especially once if it's limited or whatnot, but just trust me, you want a clean mix, make sure nothing's clipping, and if it is, like I said, no more than 3 dBs. So onto with the filter. Essentially, this I kind of derived this machine gun off of the Growl, with the exception of changing the wavetable. But I usually, this is my process. I add the distortion, the dimension expander. I filter a bit out the mids, add a little bit of the highs. Go here, add a sine shaper. Drive it to taste and put the dry wet to taste. So you lose some power if you go too high with the. Oh, my bad. This is supposed to be a parabolic shaper. But everything's adding to taste, making sure it sounds good and not distorting too much. At unity is fine. If you look at my cursor, I'm following this right here. Yeah, okay, so now we go, and these filters are important. Alright, so I added a scream again. And I add an envelope, one that is in the pluck format. This so plucking sounds pretty nice. Now the decay really dictates your pluck nature. The release also helps a bit. Add some release here. This can really emulate a sort of a guitar strum, which is kind of what you want to go for, unless you want tighter machine gun. So when I kind of like do that machine gun progression, you kind of see how it decays. It's acting pretty much like a gun. So you can add I don't know, that double notch again. That double notch is always fire. So adding an LFO kind of helps in this case. And syncing it up. Yeah, adding an LFO like this and taking off some of the, adding the amp to taste also helps with the character of the sound. Adding this here. Oops. Whoa. You see, we have happy accidents here. So I'm kind of straying off from what I showed you in the other massive patch. But here we have the phase. I usually don't like to add phase when I'm using the phase restart because it immediately trashes the sound way too harsh. Here's an example. Sometimes sounds good, sometimes sounds bad. It really depends on the wavetable you're using and the amount of phase you add. In this case, I did add it because it sounded really good when I added a bit to it. And the good old-fashioned detuning by manual detuning. I like to add this to 4, and because in the previous patch it worked, it was sounding really good at 4 there. And going negative here sounds better. So as you can see, that's pretty much the nature of making a machine gun bass. Sorry if I get too technical with you guys. I just feel like the more science you understand from this, the easier it will be for you to make the sounds you want in the future. I'm a firm believer in that understanding what you're doing really helps instead of just people just telling you that this is what you do and don't ask questions. In fact, if you do have any questions, feel free to comment. If you know me on Facebook, feel free to message me. I don't mind explaining anything that you've seen here today. I really hope that you enjoyed these tutorials. They really helped. I hope that's a decent enough machine gun bass. I just kind of did this on the spur of the moment right before filming. But yeah, feel free to ask any questions, whatnot. And yeah, I hope you enjoy these patches. And see you guys later.